Meet Maya Chen, 26 years old, hunched over three glowing monitors in the cramped corner of her shared apartment in San Diego. The blue light from her screens illuminated stacks of unpaid bills, empty energy drink cans, and a framed photograph of her grandfather wearing a faded Navy uniform. Maya worked as a virtual assistant for demanding executives who treated her like an automated response system, scheduling their meetings and filtering their emails for $12 an hour. What none of them knew was that Maya possessed an exceptional gift for spatial reasoning and systems integration, that she'd been hiding behind polite customer service emails and cheerful phone calls since graduating with a computer science degree 2 years ago. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya's grandfather, Admiral David Chen, had been a pioneer in naval aviation technology during the 1980s, developing early unmanned surveillance systems that became the foundation for modern military drone operations. He'd passed away when Maya was 14, leaving behind only stories of innovation and a mysterious metal briefcase that her grandmother kept locked in the attic. Maya's parents, both accountants, had pushed her toward practical careers and stable income, dismissing her childhood fascination with robotics and flight simulators as expensive hobbies that led nowhere profitable. Growing up in a modest household where every dollar was scrutinized, Maya learned to pursue her passions in secret. While other teenagers spent summers at camps or part-time jobs, Maya volunteered at the local community college's engineering lab, where Professor Martinez allowed her to experiment with programming autonomous systems after hours. She'd arrive at 7 in the morning and work until the janitors locked the building at midnight, teaching herself advanced programming languages and control systems theory through online tutorials and borrowed textbooks. The nickname Ghost came from her college programming team 3 years into her degree program. During a regional robotics competition, while other teams struggled with basic autonomous navigation, Maya programmed a system so sophisticated that her robot completed the obstacle course while appearing to anticipate challenges that hadn't yet materialized. Her teammates watched in amazement as her creation moved through the course like it possessed supernatural awareness, making micro-adjustments seconds before encountering obstacles that the sensors shouldn't have detected yet. But Maya's quiet brilliance made her an outsider among her more social classmates. The computer science program was dominated by confident students who spoke loudly about their internships at major tech companies and their plans to launch startups. Maya, who commuted from home to save money and worked nights at a call center to pay for her textbooks, rarely participated in study groups or social events. Her peers began making jokes about the quiet girl who always sat in the back row, typing notes faster than anyone could speak. "Hey, Ghost, did you hack into the professor's computer to get tomorrow's assignment early?" they'd whisper during lectures. Maybe she should switch to library science since she's always buried in books instead of networking. Maya never responded to the mockery, just continued her methodical note-taking and left immediately after class to rush to her evening job, answering customer service calls for an online retailer. The weight of financial pressure shaped every decision Maya made. While her classmates purchased the latest development hardware and attended expensive coding boot camps, Maya learned to maximize every free resource available. She discovered that the university's engineering lab stayed unlocked until 3 in the morning for graduate students, and she began arriving after her call center shift ended to practice programming on equipment she couldn't afford to own. Dr. Sarah Kim, a professor of autonomous systems engineering, had been observing Maya's unusual dedication for 2 semesters. At 43 years old, Dr. Kim was one of the few faculty members who remembered struggling financially during her own education. She began staying late in the lab specifically to mentor the determined student who arrived every night with a backpack full of energy bars and a thermos of coffee, ready to program until dawn. One evening in November, Dr. Kim discovered Maya had independently developed a machine learning algorithm that could predict mechanical failures in unmanned aerial vehicles with 94% accuracy. The program was more sophisticated than research being conducted by graduate students with full funding and dedicated lab time. When Dr. Kim asked how Maya had acquired the specialized knowledge needed for such advanced work, Maya quietly explained that she'd been studying her grandfather's classified research papers for the past 8 years. Maya's grandmother had given her access to Admiral Chen's personal archives on her 18th birthday, including technical specifications for experimental drone systems that were decades ahead of their time. Maya spent countless hours translating her grandfather's handwritten notes and engineering diagrams into modern programming languages, essentially teaching herself advanced autonomous systems theory through the lens of military applications that civilian universities didn't cover. Dr. Kim realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. Maya wasn't just learning computer science. She was carrying forward a family legacy of innovation in unmanned systems technology. But the academic world wasn't designed to recognize talent that didn't fit traditional molds. And Maya's financial constraints meant she was constantly one semester away from dropping out to work full-time. After graduation, Maya's job search revealed the harsh reality of the tech industry. Despite her exceptional technical skills, she lacked the internship experience and professional connections that employers expected from new graduates. Her resume, filled with community college projects and independent research, couldn't compete with candidates who had summer internships at Google and recommendation letters from industry executives. Maya eventually accepted the virtual assistant position through a gig economy platform, telling herself it was temporary income while she continued applying for engineering roles. But months turned into 2 years of scheduling meetings for executives who barely acknowledged her existence, while her programming skills grew rusty from disuse and her student loans accumulated interest that made her monthly payments impossible to manage. The mockery she'd experienced in college followed her into the professional world. During video calls with clients, Maya's youth and soft-spoken demeanor often led to condescending treatment from executives who assumed she lacked the intelligence to understand their complex business operations. "Can you handle setting up my calendar software?" Or, "Do I need to find someone more technical?" was a common question that Maya answered with professional politeness while internally calculating the mathematical probability of their business strategies succeeding. Maya's current client, Richard Blackstone, was particularly dismissive. As the CEO of a defense contracting firm, Blackstone treated Maya like an automated scheduling system, sending her dozens of emails daily with demands for meeting arrangements, travel bookings, and document organization. He referred to her as the assistant during phone calls with colleagues, never using her name despite working together for 8 months. What Blackstone didn't know was that Maya had been gradually learning about his company's operations through the documents she organized and the meeting notes she transcribed. Blackstone Defense Solutions held contracts for developing next-generation military drone systems, but their technical progress had stalled for the past 18 months due to problems with autonomous control software that their engineering team couldn't solve. Maya began staying awake after her official work hours to study the technical specifications that Blackstone asked her to organize and distribute to his engineering team. She recognized patterns in their control system failures that reminded her of problems her grandfather had solved decades earlier using completely different approaches. The contemporary solutions being attempted by Blackstone's engineers were sophisticated but fundamentally flawed because they relied on reactive programming instead of predictive algorithms. Late one Tuesday evening, while organizing files for a presentation Blackstone was giving to military procurement officers, Maya discovered something that made her hands tremble with excitement. The Department of Defense was conducting classified trials of new autonomous drone coordination systems, testing whether multiple unmanned vehicles could operate as a synchronized unit for complex missions. The technical challenges described in the briefing documents were identical to problems Maya had been solving in her spare time for the past 3 years. Maya had been developing her own autonomous coordination system using her grandfather's research as a foundation, programming on a laptop in her bedroom and testing algorithms through simulation software she'd acquired through academic licensing agreements that hadn't yet expired. Her system could theoretically coordinate dozens of unmanned vehicles simultaneously, making real-time adjustments based on mission parameters, environmental conditions, and mechanical status of individual units. But Maya was a virtual assistant living in a one-bedroom apartment with her college roommate, earning barely enough to cover rent and student loan payments. The idea that her bedroom programming projects could compete with military contractors spending millions of dollars on research and development seemed impossible, even to someone with her technical confidence. Maya's roommate Jessica worked as a social media coordinator for a local marketing firm and often brought friends over for dinner parties that Maya usually avoided. The conversations inevitably turned to career achievements and professional networking, topics that reminded Maya of how far her current reality had diverged from her academic aspirations. Maya does something with computers. Jessica would explain vaguely when friends asked about her quiet roommate who disappeared into her bedroom immediately after work each day. The loneliness of Maya's situation was compounded by her family's well-intentioned but constant questions about when she would find a real job that utilized her expensive education. Her parents, who had sacrificed their own comforts to help pay for her college degree, couldn't understand why their brilliant daughter was working as a secretary instead of programming for major technology companies like they'd expected. Maya's father, Henry Chen, worked as a bookkeeper for a small manufacturing company and viewed his daughter's technical skills through the lens of practical employment opportunities. During weekly phone calls, he would suggest that Maya apply for positions at local banks or insurance companies that needed computer specialists for routine database management. The concept that Maya was capable of advanced research and development work seemed as foreign to him as his own accounting methods would be to aerospace engineers. But Maya's grandmother, Linda Chen, understood something that the rest of the family missed. At 81 years old, Linda had lived through her husband's career developing classified military technology and recognized the signs of inherited genius being suppressed by circumstances beyond anyone's control. During Maya's monthly visits to help with household tasks, Linda would share stories about Admiral Chen's struggles with bureaucratic resistance and institutional.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Skepticism that had nearly prevented his innovations from being implemented. Your grandfather's greatest inventions were developed in our garage because the Navy wouldn't give him proper research facilities, Linda told Maya during one of these conversations. Sometimes the most important work happens where nobody expects to find it. Maya didn't realize at the time that her grandmother was preparing her for something that would change both their lives forever. The breakthrough came on a Thursday morning in March, when Maya received an urgent message from Blackstone requesting immediate assistance with a, quote, technical emergency. His company's presentation to military procurement officers had been scheduled for that afternoon, but their demonstration system had suffered a complete failure during final testing. The autonomous coordination software that was supposed to control 12 drones simultaneously had caused a cascading malfunction that resulted in simulated crashes for all unmanned vehicles within the first 30 seconds of operation. Blackstone's engineering team had worked through the night trying to identify the source of the coordination failure, but their attempts to modify the control algorithms had only created additional problems. The presentation represented an $8 million contract opportunity, and Blackstone was facing the possibility of demonstrating a system that couldn't perform basic functions in front of military decision-makers who would determine his company's future. I need you to organize all the technical documentation and prepare backup materials for a presentation that might focus more on theoretical capabilities than practical demonstration, Blackstone explained during a frantic phone call. The engineers are saying they need at least 2 weeks to rebuild the coordination system from scratch, but I can't reschedule with the Pentagon. Maya spent the morning organizing failure reports, technical specifications, and diagnostic data that painted a clear picture of why Blackstone's system couldn't function reliably. The coordination algorithms were attempting to manage multiple autonomous vehicles by treating each drone as an independent unit that communicated with a central control system, creating computational bottlenecks that caused delayed responses during critical decision-making moments. As Maya compiled the documentation, she realized that her grandfather's research had anticipated exactly this type of coordination problem 40 years earlier. Admiral Chen had developed theoretical frameworks for distributed autonomous control that eliminated central processing bottlenecks by allowing individual units to coordinate directly with each other while maintaining awareness of overall mission objectives. Maya's own programming work had been unconsciously implementing her grandfather's distributed coordination theories, using modern computational capabilities that hadn't existed during the 1980s. Her bedroom simulation software had successfully coordinated up to 36 autonomous vehicles simultaneously, because each simulated drone was programmed to function as both an individual unit and a contributing element of a larger coordinated system. At 11:30 that morning, Maya made a decision that would change her life forever. Instead of simply organizing Blackstone's failed technical documentation, she began drafting an email that would offer an alternative solution to his coordination problems. Maya knew that proposing technical modifications to military contractors as a virtual assistant would likely result in immediate termination, But she also knew that Blackstone's current system would fail spectacularly during the Pentagon presentation. "Mr. Blackstone," Maya wrote carefully, "while organizing the technical documentation for this afternoon's presentation, I noticed some patterns in the coordination failure reports that might be addressable through alternative algorithmic approaches. I realize this is outside my normal responsibilities, but I have some background in autonomous systems programming and might be able to suggest modifications that could stabilize the demonstration system." Maya attached a detailed technical analysis that identified the specific points where Blackstone's coordination software was creating computational conflicts, along with proposed solutions based on distributed processing frameworks that would eliminate the central control bottlenecks. She also included simulation results showing her own coordination system successfully managing 36 autonomous units through complex mission scenarios. Maya hesitated for 20 minutes before sending the email, knowing that her proposal would either be ignored as presumptuous overreach from an assistant, or would expose her technical capabilities in ways that might lead to unexpected consequences. But the memory of her grandfather's innovations being initially dismissed by institutional skepticism convinced her that remaining silent would be a betrayal of everything he'd taught her about the responsibility that comes with specialized knowledge. Blackstone's response arrived within 15 minutes, consisting of a single sentence that made Maya's heart pound with anxiety and anticipation. "Can you be here in 1 hour for an emergency technical consultation?" Maya had never visited Blackstone Defense Solutions despite working for the company remotely for 8 months. The facility was located in an industrial complex 30 minutes from her apartment, surrounded by security fences and requiring government clearance for access to certain areas. When Maya arrived at the reception desk wearing her most professional outfit, she was directed to a conference room where Blackstone was waiting, with his lead engineer, Dr. Michael Torres, and 2 men in military uniforms who were introduced only as Colonel Adams and Major Freeman. Dr. Torres, a 15-year veteran of aerospace engineering who had previously worked for Lockheed Martin and Boeing, looked skeptical as Maya entered the conference room. At 52 years old, Torres had supervised hundreds of engineers and programmers throughout his career, and he clearly wasn't expecting technical solutions from a 26-year-old virtual assistant wearing a discount store business suit. "Ms. Chen," Blackstone began with barely controlled urgency, "Dr. Torres has reviewed your technical analysis and says your proposed modifications are theoretically sound but would require completely rebuilding our coordination architecture. We have 4 hours before the Pentagon presentation. Can you actually implement these changes, or are we discussing theoretical possibilities?" Maya looked around the conference room at 4 men who controlled millions of dollars in research funding and career opportunities that could change her entire life trajectory. She thought about her grandfather developing revolutionary technology in his garage, while military bureaucrats dismissed his innovations as impractical theories. She thought about 2 years of arranging meetings for executives who treated her like an automated response system while her programming skills stagnated from disuse. "Sir," Maya said quietly, "I can implement a functional coordination system in 3 hours if you provide access to your development environment and test hardware, but I'll need complete administrative control over the software architecture and permission to rebuild the core algorithms from scratch using distributed processing frameworks." Colonel Adams spoke for the first time since Maya had entered the room. "Ms. Chen, are you saying you can solve coordination problems that a team of experienced engineers couldn't resolve in 6 months of development work?" His tone suggested polite skepticism rather than hostility, but Maya recognized the challenge implicit in his question. Maya opened her laptop and connected to the conference room's display system. "Colonel Adams, I'd like to show you simulation results from coordination algorithms I developed independently over the past 2 years. These algorithms can manage dozens of autonomous units simultaneously while maintaining real-time responsiveness and preventing cascade failures." For the next 20 minutes, Maya demonstrated her coordination system using simulation software that modeled complex mission scenarios involving multiple autonomous vehicles operating in contested environments. Her system coordinated 36 simulated drones through urban navigation challenges, electronic warfare conditions, and mechanical failure scenarios that would challenge the most sophisticated military hardware currently in operation. Dr. Torres watched in growing amazement as Maya's algorithms seamlessly redistributed mission responsibilities when individual units experienced simulated failures, maintained formation integrity during electronic jamming attacks, and adapted to changing environmental conditions without requiring input from centralized control systems. The technical sophistication displayed in Maya's bedroom programming project exceeded anything his professional engineering team had achieved, despite access to millions of dollars in development resources. "Miss Chen," Dr. Torres said slowly, "these coordination frameworks are more advanced than research being conducted at major aerospace contractors. How did you develop this level of expertise in autonomous systems theory?" Maya hesitated, knowing that her answer would reveal family connections to classified military research that might complicate her security clearance status. But Colonel Adams nodded encouragingly, and Maya realized that her grandfather's service record was probably already known to the military officers attending this meeting. "My grandfather was Admiral David Chen, who developed early unmanned surveillance systems for the Navy during the 1980s. I've been studying his research papers and translating his theoretical frameworks into modern programming applications. The coordination algorithms I demonstrated are based on distributed processing concepts he developed decades before the computational hardware existed to implement them practically." Major Freeman leaned forward with sudden interest. Admiral Chen was the primary architect of the NAVDRONE program that became the foundation for contemporary military autonomous systems. His theoretical work on distributed coordination was classified for 30 years, and only recently became available to contractors working on next-generation drone systems. Maya nodded. "Sir, I've had access to his complete research archive since I turned 18. My grandmother preserved all his technical documentation and encouraged me to continue his work using modern computational capabilities." The room fell silent as the implications of Maya's statement became clear. She had been independently developing advanced military technology in her bedroom, using theoretical frameworks that most defense contractors were only beginning to understand, and she'd achieved results that exceeded the performance of systems developed by teams of professional engineers with unlimited funding. Blackstone looked at his watch and made a decision that would change Maya's life forever. "Miss Chen, I'm authorizing you to rebuild our coordination system using your distributed processing architecture. You'll have complete access to our development environment, test hardware, and engineering support staff. Dr. Torres will provide any assistance you require, and Colonel Adams will observe the implementation process to verify that our system meets military performance standards." Maya spent the next 3 hours working with an intensity that impressed even Dr. Torres, who had supervised countless urgent development projects throughout his career. She rebuilt Blackstone's coordination architecture from the ground up, implementing distributed processing algorithms that allowed each drone to function independently while maintaining awareness of overall mission objectives and the status of every other unit in the coordinated group. Her programming style was unlike anything Torres had observed from other developers. Maya wrote code with the precision of someone who understood not just the syntax of programming languages, but the fundamental mathematical principles that governed autonomous systems' behavior. She incorporated error handling routines that anticipated mechanical failures, communication disruptions, and environmental changes that could affect mission performance. At 2:15 that afternoon, Maya's coordination system successfully managed the simultaneous operation of 12 autonomous drones through a complex test scenario that had been causing cascade failures for 6 months. The drones maintained perfect formation integrity, adapted to simulated electronic warfare conditions, and continued mission execution even when 3 units experienced deliberate mechanical failures designed to test system resilience. Colonel Adams watched the test results with growing excitement. "Miss Chen, your coordination system just demonstrated capabilities that exceed the performance requirements for our next-generation autonomous operations program. The Pentagon has been waiting 2 years for technology that can reliably coordinate multiple unmanned vehicles in contested environments." Maya looked at the 12 drones executing flawless maneuvers under the control of algorithms she'd developed in her bedroom and felt a connection to her grandfather that transcended the technical achievement she'd just accomplished. Admiral Chen had spent his career pushing the boundaries of what autonomous systems could achieve, and Maya had unknowingly continued his work using computational tools he could never have imagined. The Pentagon presentation that afternoon was a complete success. Military procurement officers watched in amazement as Maya's coordination system managed 12 autonomous drones through complex mission scenarios without a single malfunction or coordination error. The system's ability to maintain performance during simulated combat conditions and mechanical failures exceeded every benchmark they'd established for next-generation military technology. But Maya's transformation from virtual assistant to military contractor was just beginning. As news of her technical breakthrough spread through the defense industry, she began receiving calls from aerospace companies, government agencies, and research institutions that wanted to understand how a 26-year-old programmer had solved coordination problems that had stumped teams of experienced engineers. Dr. Sarah Kim, Maya's former professor, called 2 weeks after the Pentagon presentation with an offer that would provide Maya with the academic recognition her work deserved. "Maya, I've been following the reports about your autonomous coordination breakthrough. The university wants to offer you a full graduate fellowship to pursue a doctorate in autonomous systems engineering, with complete funding and access to our most advanced research facilities." Maya's parents were bewildered by their daughter's sudden transformation from virtual assistant to military technology developer. During a family dinner celebrating her new position as senior autonomous systems engineer at Blackstone Defense Solutions, her father struggled to understand how the technical skills he'd dismissed as impractical hobbies had become the foundation for a career that would pay more in 1 year than he earned in 5. But Maya's grandmother understood perfectly. Linda Chen had watched her husband develop revolutionary technology that military bureaucrats initially dismissed as impossible, and she recognized the same pattern of institutional resistance followed by institutional embrace that had shaped Admiral Chen's career decades earlier. "Your grandfather would be proud," Linda told Maya during a quiet moment after the family celebration. "He always said that the most important innovations happen when someone combines old wisdom with new possibilities." You've proven that his theoretical work was decades ahead of its time. Maya's story spread through online communities focused on technology careers and women in engineering, inspiring thousands of programmers who felt trapped in jobs that didn't utilize their technical capabilities. Her journey from mocked virtual assistant to military contractor became a symbol of how exceptional talent could emerge from unexpected circumstances when combined with determination and opportunity. But Maya never forgot the experience of being dismissed and underestimated during the years when her capabilities were invisible to everyone except herself. She established a scholarship fund for students from low-income families pursuing computer science degrees and began mentoring young programmers who showed exceptional promise but lacked the professional connections needed to access opportunities in competitive technology fields. 6 months after her Pentagon presentation, Maya was invited to speak at the International Conference on Autonomous Systems, where she presented research based on her grandfather's theoretical frameworks combined with her own innovations in distributed processing algorithms. The audience included leading researchers from major universities, executives from aerospace companies, and military officers responsible for developing next-generation defense technologies. During her presentation, Maya displayed a photograph of Admiral Chen in his Navy uniform, standing next to early prototype surveillance drones that looked primitive compared to contemporary technology, but represented revolutionary thinking for their time. "Innovation doesn't always happen in the places where we expect to find it," Maya told the audience. "Sometimes the most important breakthroughs come from combining historical wisdom with contemporary capabilities, and from people who are willing to work in isolation until their moment arrives." Maya's coordination algorithms were eventually implemented in military systems worldwide, coordinating thousands of autonomous vehicles in missions ranging from disaster relief operations to complex military campaigns. Her distributed processing frameworks became standard components in aerospace engineering curricula, and her research papers were cited by academics working on everything from autonomous vehicles to space exploration systems. But Maya's greatest achievement wasn't the technical innovation she'd accomplished or the professional recognition she'd received. It was the proof that exceptional capabilities could develop in isolation and emerge when circumstances finally provided opportunity for demonstration. Her story became a reminder that the person organizing your calendar, answering your customer service calls, or working quietly in the background might possess skills that could change entire industries if given the chance to prove their worth. Today, Dr. Maya Chen serves as Director of Autonomous Systems Research at the Naval Technology Institute, continuing her grandfather's work developing cutting-edge military technology. Her laboratory employs dozens of engineers and programmers, but Maya still spends late evenings working alone on theoretical problems that might not have practical applications for decades. Maya's bedroom in the shared apartment where she developed world-changing technology has been preserved as a historical landmark, complete with the 3 monitors, empty energy drink cans, and framed photograph of Admiral Chen that witnessed the beginning of a new era in autonomous systems development. Visitors can see the modest workspace, where a virtual assistant developed algorithms that would eventually coordinate military operations on every continent. The metal briefcase that Linda Chen kept locked in her attic now sits in Maya's office at the Naval Technology Institute, containing Admiral Chen's original research papers alongside technical specifications for autonomous systems that won't be practical to build until computational hardware advances beyond current capabilities. Maya continues, translating her grandfather's theoretical work into modern applications, discovering innovations that are still decades ahead of their time. Maya's story serves as a reminder that exceptional talent doesn't always announce itself through traditional channels. Sometimes the most important innovations come from people working in isolation, combining historical knowledge with contemporary tools, and waiting patiently for their moment to demonstrate capabilities that others never suspected existed. The 26-year-old virtual assistant who was mocked for her quiet demeanor and modest circumstances became the architect of military technology that protects lives and advances national security interests worldwide. But Maya's greatest satisfaction comes from knowing that she honored her grandfather's legacy while creating opportunities for others who possess exceptional capabilities that haven't yet been recognized by institutions designed to reward more conventional forms of achievement. Maya's success at the Pentagon presentation should have been the beginning of a smooth transition into her new career. But the defense contracting world proved to be more complicated than solving technical problems in isolation. Within days of her demonstration, Maya found herself navigating corporate politics, security clearance investigations, and professional relationships that required social skills she'd never needed while programming alone in her bedroom. Blackstone's engineering team, led by Dr. Torres, struggled to adapt to having a former virtual assistant suddenly elevated to senior autonomous systems engineer, with authority over projects they'd been developing for years. The team included Marcus Webb, a 34-year-old programmer who had been expecting promotion to lead engineer before Maya's arrival, and Jennifer Liu, a systems analyst who had spent 6 months trying to solve the coordination problems Maya had resolved in 3 hours. Webb made his resentment clear during Maya's first official team meeting. "So we're supposed to take direction from someone who was answering phones last week?" he asked Dr. Torres while Maya was reviewing technical specifications at the conference room table. "I've been working on autonomous systems for 8 years. What's our protocol when the new hire's bedroom programming project stops working under real-world conditions?" Maya looked up from her documentation, but didn't respond to Webb's challenge directly. She'd learned during her college years that defending herself against skeptical colleagues often escalated conflicts without changing underlying attitudes. Instead, she continued her technical review and waited for opportunities to demonstrate competence through work performance rather than verbal arguments. Dr. Torres recognized the team dynamics that could undermine Maya's effectiveness despite her technical brilliance. During a private conversation in his office, he explained the institutional challenges that often faced unconventional hires in defense contracting. "Maya, your technical capabilities are exceptional, but this industry values credentials and experience that you'll need time to develop. Some team members are going to test your authority until you prove that your Pentagon success wasn't just beginner's luck." Maya understood that her rapid promotion created legitimate concerns among colleagues who had followed traditional career paths through engineering school, internships, and gradual advancement through corporate hierarchies. Her background as a virtual assistant made her an anomaly in an industry where technical leadership positions typically require decades of documented experience with military specifications and government contracting procedures. The first major test of Maya's new role came 2 weeks after her promotion, when Blackstone received a contract modification that required expanding the drone coordination system to manage 48 autonomous units simultaneously. The original 12-drone demonstration had been impressive, but military operations required scalability that hadn't been tested under battlefield conditions, or with hardware limitations that differed significantly from laboratory environments. Webb approached the scalability challenge by proposing to duplicate Maya's 12 drone coordination algorithms across multiple processing units, essentially creating 4 separate coordination systems that would operate independently while maintaining loose communication protocols. His approach followed conventional distributed computing principles that had proven reliable for managing large-scale systems in commercial applications. Maya recognized that Webb's solution would work adequately under ideal conditions but would fail catastrophically if communication links between the 4 coordination systems experienced disruption during combat operations. Her grandfather's research had anticipated exactly this type of scaling problem, proposing organic coordination architectures that could expand seamlessly without creating critical failure points that enemies could exploit. During the technical planning meeting, where both approaches were presented to military consultants, Maya found herself explaining concepts that challenged fundamental assumptions about how autonomous systems should be designed. The organic coordination approach treats the entire group of autonomous units as a single adaptive organism rather than multiple independent systems that communicate with each other. She explained to Colonel Adams and a team of Pentagon engineers who were evaluating scalability options. Maya's presentation included simulation results showing her organic coordination system successfully managing 72 autonomous units through complex scenarios involving partial communication failures, electronic warfare conditions, and coordinated attacks designed to test system resilience. Webb's conventional approach failed within minutes when subjected to the same stress testing, demonstrating the superiority of organic architecture under combat conditions. Colonel Adams was particularly interested in Maya's organic coordination concept because it addressed strategic vulnerabilities that conventional systems created for enemy exploitation. Ms. Chen, traditional coordination systems give adversaries obvious targets for electronic warfare attacks. If they can disrupt communication between your four separate systems, the entire operation fails. But your organic approach doesn't have centralized communication links that can be targeted. Maya nodded. Sir, organic coordination distributes decision-making across all participating units, so destroying individual drones or disrupting partial communication links doesn't compromise overall mission effectiveness. The system becomes more resilient as it grows larger, rather than more vulnerable to cascade failures. The Pentagon engineers spent 3 days evaluating Maya's organic coordination algorithms, using sophisticated simulation software that modeled battlefield conditions, equipment failures, and enemy countermeasures that would challenge any autonomous systems deployed in contested environments. Maya's approach consistently outperformed conventional alternatives, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded military requirements for next-generation unmanned operations. But success in technical demonstrations didn't immediately translate to acceptance among Maya's professional peers. Webb continued questioning Maya's qualifications during team meetings, often framing his challenges in terms of industry experience and familiarity with military contracting procedures that Maya hadn't yet mastered. How do we know these organic algorithms will remain stable when integrated with existing military hardware that has different computational specifications? He asked during one particularly tense planning session. Maya had been expecting this type of challenge and had spent weeks studying military hardware specifications to understand integration requirements that weren't addressed by her simulation testing. She'd also been conducting private consultations with Dr. Kim, her former professor, who helped her translate her intuitive understanding of autonomous systems into the formal engineering documentation required by government contractors. Marcus raises a valid integration concern. Maya responded calmly. I've prepared compatibility analyses for all current military drone platforms, including computational load testing and hardware interface specifications that address the integration challenges you've identified. She distributed technical documentation that demonstrated how her organic coordination algorithms could be implemented using existing military hardware without requiring expensive system modifications. Webb reviewed Maya's integration analysis and found himself unable to identify significant technical flaws in her approach. Her documentation was comprehensive, professionally formatted, and addressed every concern he'd raised about hardware compatibility and system reliability. But his skepticism shifted from technical objections to questions about Maya's ability to manage complex projects under the bureaucratic constraints that defined government contracting. Technical capability is just one aspect of defense contracting. Webb explained to Dr. Torres during a private meeting. Maya might be a brilliant programmer, but she's never managed security clearance investigations, dealt with procurement regulations, or navigated the political requirements that determine whether projects get funded or canceled. Those skills take years to develop. Dr. Torres understood Webb's concerns about Maya's inexperience with defense industry procedures, but he also recognized that her technical innovations represented competitive advantages that could determine Blackstone's future success in an increasingly competitive market. During a confidential discussion with Blackstone himself, Torres recommended that Maya be provided with mentorship in government contracting procedures while being protected from bureaucratic responsibilities that might interfere with her technical work. Blackstone agreed to pair Maya with Sandra Mitchell, a 47-year-old program manager who specialized in navigating Pentagon procurement processes and maintaining relationships with military decision-makers. Mitchell had 23 years of experience in defense contracting and had successfully managed dozens of projects from initial proposal through final implementation and deployment. Mitchell's first meeting with Maya revealed the extent to which exceptional technical talent and industry experience had developed in complete isolation from each other. Maya could design autonomous systems that exceeded military performance requirements, but she didn't understand the procurement regulations, security protocols, and political considerations that determined whether innovations would ever be implemented in real operations. Maya, your technical work is remarkable, but the Pentagon doesn't just buy technology, Mitchell explained during their initial consultation. They buy solutions to strategic problems, delivered by teams they trust to handle classified information and navigate political sensitivities that can affect national security. Your innovations need to be packaged within frameworks that military bureaucrats can understand and approve. Mitchell began teaching Maya the unwritten rules of defense contracting, explaining how technical proposals were evaluated not just for performance capabilities but for compliance with procurement regulations, compatibility with existing military infrastructure, and alignment with political priorities that shaped funding decisions. Maya discovered that her bedroom programming success needed to be translated into a completely different language before it could become practical military technology. The education process was frustrating for someone accustomed to solving problems through direct technical approaches. Maya had to learn that brilliant engineering solutions could be rejected for bureaucratic reasons that had nothing to do with technical merit, and that successful defense contractors spent as much time managing relationships with military personnel as they spent developing innovative technology. But Maya's apprenticeship with Mitchell also revealed unexpected advantages that came from her unconventional background. Because she hadn't been trained to think within the constraints of traditional defense contracting, Maya approached problems with creative solutions that industry veterans might dismiss as impractical. Her organic coordination concept, for example, challenged assumptions about autonomous systems design that had limited innovation within the defense industry for decades. Mitchell recognized that Maya's outsider perspective could become a significant competitive advantage if properly channeled through appropriate bureaucratic frameworks. During a strategic planning meeting with Blackstone and Dr. Torres, Mitchell proposed establishing Maya as the technical lead for a new research division focused on developing innovative autonomous systems concepts that could be adapted for military applications. The new research division would provide Maya with the resources and support staff needed to continue developing advanced coordination algorithms while protecting her from the bureaucratic responsibilities that might interfere with her creative process. Mitchell would handle government relations, procurement compliance, and political coordination, while Maya focused exclusively on technical innovation that could maintain Blackstone's competitive position in a rapidly evolving market. Maya's first major project as director of the Advanced Autonomous Systems Research Division involved developing coordination algorithms for underwater drone operations, a technical challenge that combined the complexity of her earlier work with environmental conditions that created additional layers of difficulty. Underwater autonomous systems faced communication limitations, navigation challenges, and mechanical stresses that didn't affect aerial operations. The project began when the Navy requested proposals for coordinating multiple autonomous submarines during deep ocean surveillance missions. Traditional underwater coordination systems relied on acoustic communication networks that could be detected by enemy sensors and disrupted by environmental conditions that affected sound transmission through water at different depths and temperatures. Maya recognized that her organic coordination principles could address underwater communication limitations by reducing reliance on constant data exchange between autonomous units. If individual submarines could make intelligent decisions based on mission objectives and environmental awareness, they could maintain coordination even when communication networks were compromised by enemy action or natural conditions. Working with a team of marine engineers and submarine specialists, Maya began adapting her coordination algorithms for underwater environments that created unique technical challenges. Water pressure at operational depths affected computational hardware performance. Saltwater corrosion required specialized equipment protection, and ocean currents created navigation variables that didn't exist in aerial operations. Maya's team included Dr. Rachel Foster, a marine robotics specialist who had spent 15 years developing autonomous underwater vehicles for scientific research applications. Foster brought practical experience with underwater equipment limitations and environmental challenges that Maya needed to understand before her coordination algorithms could be adapted for submarine operations. Foster was initially skeptical about applying aerial coordination concepts to underwater environments that operated according to completely different physical principles. Maya, underwater autonomous systems face challenges that aerial drones never encounter, she explained during their first technical consultation. Communication delays, pressure effects on equipment, and three-dimensional navigation in environments where GPS doesn't function create problems that your aerial algorithms haven't been designed to address. Maya spent several weeks working with Foster to understand underwater operational requirements that her grandfather's research hadn't anticipated. Admiral Chen had developed coordination theories for aerial surveillance systems, but underwater applications required modifications to basic assumptions about how autonomous units could share information and coordinate activities in environments with severe communication limitations. The breakthrough came when Maya realized that underwater coordination problems were similar to challenges her grandfather had faced when developing autonomous systems for operations in contested environments where enemy jamming could disrupt communication networks. His research included contingency algorithms for maintaining coordination when individual units were forced to operate independently for extended periods. Maya began adapting these contingency algorithms for underwater environments where communication limitations were caused by physical conditions rather than enemy action. Her modified organic coordination system allowed submarines to maintain mission effectiveness even when acoustic communication networks were completely unavailable, using environmental cues and predetermined tactical protocols to coordinate activities without constant data exchange. The underwater coordination system was tested using a dozen autonomous submarines operating at depths of 500 feet in conditions that simulated combat environments with active enemy countermeasures. Maya's algorithms successfully coordinated complex surveillance patterns while maintaining operational security that prevented enemy sensors from detecting coordination activities through communication network monitoring. Naval testing officers were impressed by the system's ability to maintain effectiveness under conditions that would compromise traditional coordination approaches. Captain Elizabeth Morrison, who supervised the underwater testing program, noted that Maya's organic coordination concept represented a fundamental advance in autonomous submarine capability that could change strategic planning for underwater operations. Ms. Chen, your coordination system allows autonomous submarines to operate as an integrated unit without creating communication signatures that enemies can detect and target, Captain Morrison explained during the post-testing evaluation. This capability gives us operational advantages that have been theoretical goals for underwater warfare specialists for decades. Maya's success with underwater coordination algorithms led to additional contracts for developing autonomous systems for space operations, Arctic environments, and other specialized applications that required coordination under extreme conditions. Each new project expanded her understanding of how organic coordination principles could be adapted for environments that created unique technical challenges. But Maya's growing reputation as an innovative autonomous systems designer also attracted attention from competitors who wanted to understand how someone with her limited industry experience had achieved breakthrough results that established engineering teams hadn't accomplished, despite years of research and unlimited funding. Dr. Amanda Stevens, a senior researcher at Northrop Dynamics who had been developing autonomous systems for military applications for 12 years, requested a meeting with Maya to discuss potential collaboration opportunities. Stevens had read technical papers about Maya's organic coordination work and wanted to understand the theoretical foundations that enabled her innovative approaches to complex engineering problems. During their meeting at a defense industry conference in Virginia, Stevens was surprised to discover that Maya's technical innovations were based on decades-old theoretical research that contemporary engineers had largely overlooked. Maya: I've been studying autonomous systems coordination for my entire career, but I've never encountered the distributed processing frameworks you're implementing. Where did these concepts originate? Maya explained her grandfather's role in developing early autonomous systems theory and her process of translating historical research into modern applications using computational capabilities that hadn't existed during the 1980s. Stevens realized that Maya's competitive advantages came from access to classified research that other contractors had never studied, because it predated contemporary autonomous systems development. Stevens returned to Northrop Dynamics with a new understanding of why Maya had been able to solve coordination problems that industry experts had considered nearly impossible. Her success wasn't just the result of exceptional programming skills, but came from combining historical research insights with modern computational tools in ways that created genuinely innovative approaches to complex technical challenges. The defense industry began recognizing that Maya represented a new model for technology development that combined deep theoretical knowledge with practical programming expertise and freedom from conventional assumptions about how autonomous systems should be designed. Her success demonstrated that breakthrough innovations could emerge from unexpected sources when brilliant individuals had access to resources and opportunities that allowed their capabilities to be fully utilized. Maya's story inspired other defense contractors to search their archives for historical research that might contain theoretical insights applicable to contemporary technical challenges. Several companies discovered that classified research from previous decades included concepts that could be implemented using modern computational capabilities, leading to a renaissance of interest in combining historical military research with cutting-edge technology development. But Maya's most significant achievement wasn't the specific technical innovations she developed or the commercial success those innovations had generated. It was her demonstration that exceptional technical capabilities could develop in isolation and emerge when circumstances provided opportunities for their expression, regardless of whether those capabilities followed traditional career paths or met conventional expectations about how expertise should be acquired. Maya's laboratory at Blackstone Defense Solutions became a destination for young engineers who wanted to learn how theoretical research could be translated into practical innovations that solved real-world problems. She established mentorship programs for students who showed exceptional technical promise but lacked the professional connections or financial resources needed to access traditional opportunities in competitive technology fields. Maya's approach to mentorship emphasized the importance of deep theoretical understanding combined with practical programming experience and willingness to challenge conventional assumptions about how complex problems should be addressed. She taught her students that breakthrough innovations often came from combining insights from different fields or time periods in ways that created entirely new approaches to persistent technical challenges. The research division that Maya had established at Blackstone grew to include 37 engineers and programmers working on autonomous systems projects for military, commercial, and scientific applications. Her organic coordination algorithms were licensed to aerospace companies worldwide and became standard components in autonomous systems curricula at major universities. Maya's personal transformation from virtual assistant to internationally recognized expert in autonomous systems development became a case study in how exceptional talent could emerge from unexpected circumstances when combined with opportunity, determination, and access to specialized knowledge that others had overlooked. Her story demonstrated that innovation didn't always follow predictable paths, and that breakthrough achievements could come from individuals whose capabilities weren't immediately obvious to conventional evaluation methods. But Maya never forgot the experience of being underestimated and dismissed during the years when her technical capabilities were invisible to everyone except herself. She maintained relationships with virtual assistants, customer service representatives, and other support staff who might possess hidden talents that hadn't been recognized by employers who viewed them only through the lens of their current job responsibilities. Maya established a foundation that provided scholarships and mentorship opportunities for individuals who showed exceptional technical promise, but lacked the credentials or connections needed to access advanced education and career opportunities in competitive fields. The Foundation's programs were specifically designed to identify and support talented individuals who might be working in jobs that didn't utilize their full capabilities. Maya's office at Blackstone included a wall display featuring photographs of Admiral Chen's early autonomous systems prototypes alongside images of contemporary military drones that implemented coordination algorithms based on his theoretical research. The display served as a reminder that innovation often required decades to develop from theoretical concepts into practical applications, and that breakthrough achievements could emerge when historical insights were combined with contemporary capabilities. Visitors to Maya's laboratory were often surprised to learn that her revolutionary coordination algorithms had been developed using theoretical frameworks that predated personal computers, implemented by a virtual assistant working alone in a shared apartment bedroom. Maya's story challenged assumptions about where important innovations originated and how exceptional technical capabilities developed outside traditional educational and professional institutions. Maya's continued research focused on developing autonomous coordination systems for applications that wouldn't become practical for decades. following her grandfather's example of pursuing theoretical work that anticipated future technological capabilities. Her current projects included coordination algorithms for autonomous spacecraft, self-organizing manufacturing systems, and distributed artificial intelligence networks that could adapt to changing conditions without centralized control. Maya's legacy extended beyond her specific technical achievements to include her demonstration that exceptional capabilities could develop in isolation and emerge when circumstances provided opportunities for their expression. Her transformation from mocked virtual assistant to leading autonomous systems researcher proved that innovation could come from unexpected sources and that talented individuals might be working in positions that didn't reflect their true potential. The 26-year-old virtual assistant who had been dismissed by executives who treated her like an automated response system became the architect of military technology that influenced autonomous systems development worldwide. But Maya's greatest satisfaction came from knowing that her success created opportunities for others who possessed exceptional capabilities that hadn't yet been recognized by institutions designed to identify and develop technical talent through conventional pathways. Maya's story continued to inspire individuals who felt trapped in jobs that didn't utilize their capabilities, demonstrating that breakthrough achievements could emerge when exceptional talent finally found opportunities to prove its worth. Her research division became a model for how innovative technology companies could identify and develop unconventional talent that might revolutionize entire industries if provided with appropriate resources and support. 5 years after her transformation from virtual assistant to autonomous systems pioneer, Maya received an unexpected phone call that would define the final chapter of her remarkable journey. The Secretary of Defense was requesting her personal consultation on Project Constellation, a classified initiative to develop autonomous coordination systems for protecting critical infrastructure against coordinated cyber-physical attacks that could cripple entire nations. Maya arrived at the Pentagon on a crisp October morning, carrying the same worn leather briefcase that had belonged to her grandfather. The briefcase now contained technical specifications for coordination algorithms that could manage thousands of autonomous units simultaneously, representing the culmination of decades of research that had begun in Admiral Chen's garage and continued through Maya's bedroom programming sessions. General Patricia Hendricks, the project director for Constellation, explained that foreign adversaries had developed sophisticated attack capabilities that could simultaneously target power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, and financial infrastructure using coordinated swarms of autonomous vehicles and cyber weapons. Traditional defense systems couldn't respond effectively to attacks that occurred simultaneously across multiple domains and geographic regions. Maya, we need coordination systems that can orchestrate defensive responses, involving autonomous aircraft, ground vehicles, cyber defense algorithms, and human operators working together as a unified defensive network. General Hendricks explained during the classified briefing, "Your organic coordination principles represent our best hope for developing truly integrated defense capabilities." Maya recognized that Project Constellation represented the ultimate application of her grandfather's theoretical vision. Admiral Chen had imagined autonomous systems that could adapt to any threat environment and coordinate seamlessly with human decision-makers. But the technology of his era had limited his concepts to small-scale implementations. Maya now had the opportunity to realize his vision on a scale that could protect entire civilizations. Working with a team of specialists from every branch of the military and intelligence services, Maya began developing what would become known as the Adaptive Defense Coordination Protocol. The system combined her organic coordination algorithms with artificial intelligence networks, human decision-making frameworks, and real-time threat assessment capabilities that could respond to attacks faster than human operators could even recognize them. The technical challenges were unprecedented. Maya had to create coordination systems that could integrate autonomous vehicles operating in air, land, sea, space, and cyber domains, while maintaining compatibility with existing military hardware, intelligence networks, and command structures that had developed independently over decades. The system also had to make life-and-death decisions autonomously, while remaining accountable to human oversight and constitutional principles. Maya's solution drew inspiration from biological immune systems that could recognize and respond to novel threats, while learning from each encounter to improve future responses. Her adaptive defense protocol functioned like a technological immune system for entire nations, coordinating defensive responses that could evolve and improve continuously as threats became more sophisticated. The first full-scale test of Maya's coordination protocol occurred during a simulated attack scenario that modeled the most devastating threats intelligence agencies could imagine. Enemy forces launched coordinated attacks against 57 critical infrastructure targets simultaneously, using combinations of cyber weapons, autonomous vehicle swarms, and conventional military assets that would overwhelm any traditional defense system. Maya's protocol-coordinated responses, involving 3,000 autonomous defensive units, 17 different military command centers, 42 civilian infrastructure operators, and hundreds of human decision-makers who needed real-time information and tactical coordination to implement effective countermeasures. The system successfully defended all critical targets while adapting to attack patterns that changed continuously throughout the 8-hour simulation. General Hendricks watched the test results with amazement that bordered on disbelief. Maya's coordination system had managed the most complex defensive operation in military history, orchestrating responses that required split-second timing across multiple domains while maintaining perfect integration between autonomous systems and human operators. Maya, you've created something that changes the fundamental nature of national defense. This technology represents a paradigm shift equivalent to the development of nuclear weapons or satellite communications. Maya understood that her work had evolved far beyond solving technical puzzles to creating capabilities that could determine whether democratic societies could survive in an era of increasingly sophisticated autonomous warfare. Her coordination algorithms would protect millions of people who would never know that their safety depended on mathematical formulas developed by a former virtual assistant working in her bedroom. The implementation of Maya's adaptive defense protocol transformed her from a defense contractor into a national security asset whose personal protection became a matter of strategic importance. She was assigned a security detail, moved to a classified residential facility, and given access to resources that included unlimited research funding and collaboration opportunities with the world's leading experts in autonomous systems, artificial intelligence, and strategic defense planning. But Maya's greatest satisfaction came from a personal letter she received from her grandmother on the day her coordination protocol was officially deployed to protect critical infrastructure nationwide. Linda Chen, now 86 years old, had lived to see her granddaughter complete the work that her husband had begun decades earlier in their garage. Your grandfather always believed that his research would someday protect people in ways he couldn't imagine, Linda wrote. Watching you fulfill his vision has been the greatest honor of my life. You've proven that innovation transcends generations, and that important work finds a way to continue even when the original pioneers don't live to see their dreams realized. Maya's story became a classified case study in how unconventional talent could emerge to solve problems that threaten national survival. Her transformation from mocked virtual assistant to architect of national defense systems demonstrated that critical innovations could develop in isolation and emerge when historical circumstances demanded solutions that only exceptional individuals could provide. Maya continued her research in advanced autonomous coordination, working on theoretical problems that wouldn't have practical applications for decades, but could become essential for protecting humanity against threats that didn't yet exist. Her laboratory included Admiral Chen's original research notes alongside quantum computers and artificial intelligence systems that would have seemed like magic to previous generations of engineers. Maya's legacy extended beyond her technical achievements to include her proof that exceptional capabilities could develop anywhere and emerge when circumstances finally provided opportunities for their expression. Her journey from virtual assistant organizing executive calendars to researcher protecting national infrastructure became evidence that innovation didn't follow predictable patterns, and that breakthrough achievements could come from individuals whose potential remained invisible until events revealed their true capabilities. The quiet young woman who had been dismissed as just an assistant became the guardian of technological systems that protected millions of lives daily. Maya's organic coordination algorithms operated invisibly in the background of modern civilization, coordinating defensive responses to threats that most people never knew existed, while maintaining the stability that allowed democratic societies to flourish in an increasingly dangerous world. Maya Chen proved that sometimes the most important innovations emerge from the most unexpected sources, and that the person managing your schedule or answering your customer service calls might possess capabilities that could change the world if given the opportunity to demonstrate their true potential. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.